Hey, what do you know? What do you know? I'm on time. I'm on time for my own stream for once. This is amazing. So here we are. This is an incredible, momentous day here in Canada. Welcome, everybody, to the live stream. If this is your first time here, welcome. My name's Clyde, and this is where I do stuff. And yes, every morning, every single morning, I do videos talking about news, politics, things around the world, and a lot mostly here in Canada because there's just so much happening here in Canada. So I put these videos together. I put them together in the mornings, and then at the end of the week, I like to do a live stream to get back to you guys. 10 minutes is not a lot of time to get into some of the nuances of these stories. So I'll often pick a couple of stories and I'll get more in depth, maybe even into the philosophy behind some of this stuff. Noob 431 with the gifting 10 memberships to the channel right out of the gates. Holy cow. Bring the chat in here. Ladies and gents, thank you so much. And thank you, Noob. Thank you so much for that. And hey, everybody in the chat, you better get thanking Noob, who just received a membership on him to the channel. This is amazing. Awesome. Thank you so much. And it helps and it supports the channel and it supports our ability to do stuff. I'm looking at the channel. Speaking of support, we got 147 people in here so far. People are coming on in, but the likes are still on the really low meter. The best thing to support the channel is definitely engagement. It's a big deal for YouTube and the algorithm and how all that stuff works. If you want to get this message out there to more people, that's how they do it. The algorithm says, hey, I've got a profile of this person, what they like to watch. I've got a bunch of other people that kind of watch similar stuff. Let's maybe recommend this out there because so many people are liking it. FJT member for 1 month. Thank you so much. Freedom. Well, yikes. Yeah, Clyde, congrats on passing Bill C-11. No, not congratulations. We're not congratulating ourselves here. This is everyone in the country didn't want it except some of the crappy ruling elite, and we got it anyway. That's just how it's been working out here, and we're gonna get into some of the effects of this and how this is gonna play out, or predictions of how it's gonna play out. Even if it was well-intentioned, which they always say they are, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, as the old proverb says, and that's exactly what's going to happen, in my opinion, with this C-11 that's supposedly going to be helping out our heritage, Canadian heritage. This from a prime minister that says that we don't have a identity in Canada. Well, what are we protecting then anyway? I've got a new screen here just so I could keep an eye on the chat a little bit closer and hopefully attend to it as much as I can. Also, we're going to be changing the format just a little bit for this live stream tonight. We're going to be talking about a few news stories. I'm going to be getting in touch with you guys, and this is the real main purpose of the live streams, but we're also going to have a guest on later in the show. So at about the hour mark, we're going to have the lovely Anita K on. She's going to be coming in and talking about, well, just how corrupt the news is and how much of a bubble that they live in. Why does she know this is so in depth? Well, she knows this because she used to work for Global News. She's very familiar with the industry and how things work. She was let go from the news industry for voicing her own opinions during the COVID-19 pandemic. So we're going to have her on. She's doing some wonderful things on the interwebs, getting herself kicked off of some platforms and finding herself settling in with other platforms. But we'll be chatting with her soon enough. So we'll have her in, and that's going to be great. I'm looking forward to it. And in the meantime, looking forward to chatting with you guys and sharing some of these stories, things that have been going on through the course of the week. Two stories in particular I really want to talk about. Well, of course, obviously the Bill C-11. That's the big one. And my son is shouting at me through the locked door, and I'm gonna go. Oh, the wife's got it. Amazing. So yeah, there's that. There's those two big stories, C-11, and then also the government worker strike, the PSAC as it's known. The PSAC is they're storming the gates, are they? Give us more free stuff. We really want to, have life even easier on the old government dime. And no, that my kid is still going at it. So I'm just gonna jump out and make sure he goes in. Hey son, you gotta get back in the house. Just started my stream. Okay, there we go. So locked the door, but he's definitely learned how to bang on a door. But here we go. So we're into the live stream, and things like that happen. Always just jumping in. Anyway, use duct tape, bro. Yeah, duct tape. No, it doesn't work. He's got no facial hair yet, so it doesn't hold on, or it holds on too tight, maybe. Bust the door down, little kiddo. Yeah, there you go. Little Daniel is he's very, very enthusiastic, especially when the recordings start. That's twice today. He's done that to me. I did that this morning as well. Shadow ban in effect on this? No, I don't know. Well, we'll see. So it's too early to tell just yet, or how soon it'll actually go. PSAC sounds like something I drain every morning when I wake up. Yeah, it does, because that's where they store it, right? In the balls. Pee is stored in the balls, they say. Oh yeah, the PSAC. That's what an acronym. That's what they chose for their union. But yeah, public sector unions, never been a fan. I've never been really a fan of unions, well, modern unions. I mean, they've had their place. But, unions, contemporary unions do things like destroy the Twinkie, and I suppose we could get into that. I mean, I could just tell you the story right now. This happened a number of years ago, where the union for Hostess, they were negotiating terms. And the union was just so, of course, these are the union bosses, not the actual workers. Their union was just so enamored with their ability to just put everything on hold and hold that company to get that little bit more. And the company said, like, hey, we can give you 25 cents an hour more, but you're asking for 50. 50 will just make us bust. We'll just go bust. We're giving you everything we can give. And they said, no, we're calling your bluff. You're not going to go bust. Well, they went bust. And the union was gone. And then I guess somebody else bought up the company. And then there you go. Now they're back in business. No shadow ban yet, Clyde, on my side. Showed up as soon as I came to YouTube yet. I noticed, so I changed the thumbnail for this stream. And I noticed before I got in, a lot of people got in here and they saw that. And I guess maybe some people, because I wasn't yet streaming, thought that was an actual censorship. That wasn't the case. Union bosses at regular pay check with those picketing get $100 per week. The union bosses get that. Yeah, well, we see a lot of cases. I grew up in a union town, and I know the debate back and forth. But so there's arguments for why unions are needed. I think they were needed back in the day. Things are pretty cozy and cushy for a lot of people out there. But when it comes to government work, there's a total conflict of interest when it comes to government work, because you're not lobbying a business that can, like, say, this is realistically all I could do. No, you're lobbying government bureaucrats that are negotiating with money that isn't even theirs. It's taxpayer dollars, and this is how it goes, and this is how you end up with what the Fraser Institute is showing. It was people working for the private sector that are making 8.5% more than their working for the public sector, making 8.5% more than their private sector counterparts. The same job, they're making more working for the government. So this is, we can't have this. We can't have this when these are tax dollars paying for services that are not, and I'm sorry, I'm tired of, I got lots of replies this week, people saying, you have any idea what kind of GDP, you're a cost. you're not making any gross domestic product. You're a cost, a net loss to the taxpayer. It's a service. It's funny. And here, let me tell you a little story about this. So without the strike, It took us 6 months to get our son's passport to go to Japan when we went to Japan just the other month. Amazing. Wow. Only 6 months? Really? Some people are probably saying that. I had to wait even longer. 6 months it took us to get, no, 8 months. Sorry. 8 months to get our son's passport. By the time, put it this way, by the time he got his passport, he didn't even look like the picture anymore. That's how it was. But yeah, of course. And so we went to Japan, and before we went to Japan, my wife's passport had expired. So she had to renew it. Well, she's from Japan, so she went to the Japanese embassy here down in Vancouver. We drove down, she got it, and it took 2 weeks from a foreign country for the Japanese to get my wife, a citizen of Japan, her passport reissued and delivered. 2 weeks. Do you think that Canadians should be, paying so much for this kind of service? It's unbelievable. And this is not when they were on strike. Now that they're on strike, it's going to be even longer waits. It's unreal. Yeah, 2 weeks. 2 weeks from a foreign country. Oh, goodness. You can't make this stuff up, folks. You can't. But hey, why don't we get into some of this stuff? Because it's just off the chains ridiculous at this point. How things have been going, what people just put up with. As Canadians, we just put up with an absurd amount of everything, just an absurd amount of all this stuff. And what do we get for it? Well, we get a whole lot of nothing. We get a whole lot of sweet FA from our own government. And well, here to show you some of the stuff that we get. And well, I'm gonna do the union story first because it's just too funny. And before that, I had to show you this. This is just an amazing GIF that my buddy Vesper D put out there on Twitter. You guys can share these around. By the way, go follow, if you're on Twitter, follow Vesper D. He's on a mission. His mission is to destroy Trudeau. He wants to do everything that he can to get Trudeau out of office, and then he's gonna delete his account. Like, he's deleting the account. He says mission accomplished. It's over. It's not about clout. It's not about followers. It's about giving people the tools to do that. And he's a graphic designer, and he's a very good one at that. So there you go. Go on over there. You can download the GIF and you just share it around everywhere you go. It's amazing. What do we got here? We've got BA with the $11 super chat. 2 huge reveals today. How much public service servants who don't want. Let me just pop that back up so I can read it. 2 huge reveals today about public servants who don't comply to current narrative. Whistleblowers in Canada, and ex-Trudeau Foundation CEO testifies about donation discrepancies on this guy's garage. Yes, this guy's garage, always covering good stuff. And I heard about that. So I haven't prepared a story for that. I think that will be Tuesday, because this is the kind of stuff that they bury on a Friday. So I'm going to do my research on that one, and I'm going to bring that out on Tuesday. Tuesday, of course, not Monday, because we're going camping this weekend. Sorry. Family first. We're going camping. Won't have a story on Monday morning, but absolutely. And thank you so much, BA, for bringing that to my attention and for the super chat. Amazing. So this is unreal. Some of the stuff that was revealed in testimony from Trudeau Foundation leaders. Unreal. What's happening there? Camping is great. Yes. Off to the woods. Yep. Gonna go pitch the tent. We got a portable barbecue we're bringing with us. It's gonna be great. Have a fire. Do all that stuff. Gonna eat some meats. And do that. But anyway, again, with the promo, and I'm showing you this just because I'd love to give you guys tools that you guys could go on the internet and do your stuff. Vesper is always making great memes and great things, always focused against Trudeau. Go download them, just like right click and download. He actively hopes that people do this. That's the whole reason why he's doing it. But somebody else sharing this, R. Horn sharing Trudeau sporting the Schwabstica today. And yeah, there it is. There it is. That's the Schwabstica. For those that aren't familiar, it's the Klaus Schwab's version of the swastika. It's the new modern take on that. That's the World Economic Forum symbol. symbol of whatever diversity, strength, inclusion, all that mumbo jumbo ESG stuff that's going to bankrupt all of our nations. Yes, it's the glory hole. You guys are hilarious. Oh no. Yeah. Oh, that's it. There it is. It's the Schwabstica. It's the glory hole. Oh, yeah, unreal. So anyway, let's get into this story. I want to close that out. Anyway, getting back to what the Fraser Institute was saying. Fraser Institute says that the government sector workers, they retire 2.4 years earlier. They miss work for personal reasons over 5 days more per year. Unacceptable fringe with a $6.99 super chat. Thank you so much, my man. Chat's moving too quick. I gotta pause it now for these super chats. My super chat has been censored by the CCP. I mean China. I mean C11. Have a great show if you don't get blacklisted first, right? Unreal. Crazy. Thank you so much, Derek, for the super chat there. But yeah, we're gonna try to stay out of trouble. Oh, I don't even know. I don't know. It's a whole new set of rules when the government takes a hold of that algorithm. We're gonna get into that soon enough. But here we are. Experiences almost 5 times less job loss. Almost 9 times more likely to have a pension that guarantees income in retirement. One more thing that I'd like to add to this that most people don't know, and perhaps British Columbia residents are more familiar with, but I had Dr. Brian Day on the show. He is the head of the Canby Surgical Clinic that was fighting the government to make sure that to make it so that we could have private medical if our government system fails us. Well, it turns out they've decided they're not going to even see that case. They're not even going to listen to that case. And I'd like to cover that. I'd like to have Brian Day back on, Dr. Brian Day, gentleman and scholar and amazing fighter for freedom. But lost this one against the government here in British Columbia. But I want to add one thing that was revealed during my first interview with him was the fact that you're not allowed to go to a private clinic in British Columbia as a British Columbia citizen unless you work for the government. And then you can. So that's another perk to the job here. So if you work as a government sector, you can bypass the Canadian healthcare system and get private medical if your wait times are too long. How about that? How about them apples for perks for the job? Yeah, private sector people, they should really have a picture of him with his pockets pulled right out, because that's how it feels right now with how much we get just raked over the coals, bent over without lube for the Canadian government here. And more super chats in here. Unacceptable fringe, another one. Derek, thank you so much for the $6.99 super chat. Last one, I swear, real Canadian content just got Hillaried. Yeah, yeah, it's gone the way of Epstein, because it did it to itself, right? It did it to itself. Unfortunate. Oh my goodness. Thank you, Derek. And it doesn't have to be the last one, you know that, right? Joking. But here's where we are with this. Anyway, the government sector unions getting a pretty sweet deal. Now, I put out this tweet and it it got a lot of people laughing and it grinded some gears. Last year we had the Freedom Convoy. This year we have the Freeloader Convoy. And of course, you got these two guys that are reps for the union, which you'll see on TV. Of course, you know, very, very clean under their nails. Very prim and proper, jumping out there, making sure everybody knows just how hard they've been having it from the federal government's pay, just like the slave labor that government workers have. Now, it's funny because not all of them, and I put out a video this morning, of course, with the Freeloader Convoy, Canadians not so sympathetic to the PSAC demands. it's a thing. It definitely is a thing. Memes are great. The memes are fantastic. Going downtown to work. No. Going downtown to protest, going downtown to work. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about right there. Oh, man. These people, no shame, really, no shame getting out there and telling taxpayers that they need to pony up more money for their cause. I just can't get behind it. And not especially after the attitude that they gave to the Freedom Convoy at the time. And I even did a story about it because they did a counter protest. They came out waving communist flags. Not kidding. You can't make this stuff up. They came out with communist flags in their rally against, you named it, people fighting for freedom in Canada. Well, this hasn't aged well, has it? Says KR on Twitter. You're freaking entitled hypocrites. Get back to work. Your wages are 8.5% higher than private sector with benefit retirement packages most of us can only dream of. And this is the original tweet. And this is back in February 2nd of 2022. They were early adopters of the anger against the Freedom Convoy. This was in like the first week of it. PSAC condemns the ongoing demonstrations in Ottawa. This is the kind of hate-fueled description when this kind of hate-fueled disruption, sorry, there's my dyslexia kicking in, is allowed to happen in our communities. It will continue to spread elsewhere. It's time to end this. Brought to you by the PSAC. So the PSAC, not a big fan of the Freedom Convoy. Now, a lot of people were telling me, Clyde, how can you do this? How can you make memes like this and talk about comparing them to the Freedom Convoy? You're sowing all this division and stuff. And I say, like, no, I'm not. These are people that were completely against the convoy. These were people who are arguing currently that we should continue doing COVID lockdowns for their sake. They benefited from the COVID lockdowns. They really liked it, a lot of these people, and this is what it is. We still love and listen intently. You keep us honest, educated, Clyde. Thank you. Appreciate that. I mean, these are my opinions as well. I mean, they're especially when I went after this story, I had a lot of people disagreeing with me, and I think that's fine. If you disagree with me, come on out and disagree with me. It's when it turns into like name calling and stuff, then it's like, oh, okay, well, I guess I've won. You know, when people start name calling, I believe it was Socrates that said, slander is the tool of the person who loses the debate. Some sort of that's a paraphrase, but along those lines. That was Socrates, by the way. I agree 100% with showing them to be the a-holes they are. Yeah, absolutely. It's super hypocritical when they were against the convoy, and now yet they're doing the same things, and we're going to get into that, the tactics that they're using as well. One of the leaders here goes on for his pro wrestler interview. This kind of reminded me of like a less manly Macho Man Randy Savage or something like that. The Macho Man. Anyway, this is his take on growing support. We need to get more support out here.
It is high time that this government understand that workers in the federal public service deserve fair wages that keep up with the cost of living, that all workers deserve fair wages that keep up with the cost of living. So we are putting a call out. Everyone join us at Parliament Hill tomorrow so we can send a strong message to this government that workers deserve fair wages. We are calling on all PSAC members and our allies across the labor movement and the community. Join us tomorrow on Parliament Hill so we can send a message to this employer that workers deserve fairness and respect.
Ooh, Oilfield Trash saying, wow, I wish I could get this kind of enthusiasm when I called the government office and needed help. Unbelievable. Yes, and I should watch out. I don't know what people's pronouns are. Of course, gotta be careful. This is something We really do. Oh, I don't want to compare him to Macho Man. I have so much respect for Macho Man Randy Savage. Rest his soul. Unbelievable. He was such a talent. He was so really good. This guy obviously coming out super enthusiastic about getting pay raises, but we don't see that kind of enthusiasm when we pick up the call and call Service Canada or call any of these agencies to try to get the things that we need done. We need done all the time. And it's funny because right now a lot of these industries are still moving forward. Now, there are a bunch of people currently that are still working. There are lots of people that are still working, but there's a lot being pushed off and not being done. But there are a lot of people that are still considered essential services. Now, might be able to take that essential services note and say, hey, maybe this is a good starting position. This might be a good starting spot for people to understand. Maybe they aren't all necessary. Maybe we don't actually need them all. That might be a thing. Now, Elon Musk, of course, he fired 80% of Twitter when he came on, and it turns out if you're not censoring everybody, you don't need such a big workforce. And the Twitter has been saving a lot of money. Maybe the Canadian government could take a lesson from Elon Musk. Now, I wouldn't say stop with that. Definitely remove a lot of the other spending. That's is just in 80 or 90%. Yeah, okay, 80 or 90%. Unbelievable. So much gone. So much gone from the budget at Twitter. We could do the same thing with the Canadian government. Cut a ton of stuff. Cut a lot of the staff. A lot of the people that call you when you don't really want to call them, or you don't want them to be talking to you, but then don't answer the phone when you need them most. Anyway, here we are with that. A lot of people, on the news media, and we're going to get into this later when we're talking with Anita about how the news actually works, because here we have a story from CTV News, throwing this one out there. Hey, guess what, everybody? A majority of Canadians support PSAC's demands for wage premiums and work from home rights. Well, is that true? Is that really true? And so we go into the article. You get reading into it. It's the usual blah, blah, shill of the news media. Majority of Canadians support PSAC demands for wage premiums, work from home rights. From this survey. Now, a recent survey shows that the majority of Canadians support the Public Service Alliance of Canada, or PSAC as it's known, and work from home rights as more than 155,000 federal workers continue to strike. The Angus Reid Institute, a non-profit, non-partisan public opinion research foundation, found that 65% of those surveyed reported the union's ask for wage premiums for night shifts and overtime hours. 50%. So they go into a bunch of these metrics of which they pontificate and come up with their own opinion, right? And you can go down to the methodology, read what the methodology was, how many people actually gave this opinion. 1,276. Great. Why don't we just go over to the Angus Reid Institute and see what they had to say about this? Because instead of reporting on what the Angus Reid Institute had to say about it, they just report on what they want you to think about it. Angus Reid says overpaid and undervalued or underpaid or undervalued, politics divides opinion of federal employees' working conditions and compensation. And that's pretty much what you would expect. If you go down in the article, it shows a breakdown between people who typically vote for the CPC, Liberals, or the NDP, with the NDP obviously with the look at the chart. It shows that there's a lot more support with the NDP. They're known for being the union backing party of Canada, which is, again, the minority party. It's the tiniest party in Canada, with a majority of Canadians, like the total of everybody, 64% saying that government workers are either fairly compensated or overpaid. 28% of them saying overpaid. Absolutely. So this is where we are with that. Oh, but it just gets funnier because you could just run polls all you want, just like CBC or CTV takes the poll that works out in their favor. That's the typical line for the mainstream media. People are running polls all over Twitter. And of course, these are hilarious because they show up 94% are against the demands of the strike. But this is skewed, of course, because these are the followers of Robert Wilson, the parody account of himself. Then there's more of them. It's not just one, right? Here's another one. Doge Seeds ran a poll and got 91.9% of people. But of course, these are just the followers of these accounts. Just like you can pick and choose which way you want a poll to go depending on what questions that you ask. And this is what I found most dubious about polling from the mainstream media in the past year, at least, since I've been paying so much attention to it. Now, of course, Fraser Institute, again, saying comparing government and private sector compensation in Canada, the private sector is really hurting compared to the public sector. And this is when things are completely backwards, and you gotta say, sorry, government workers, you're not gonna get anything until at least the private sector catches up to where you currently are. If the private sector is, and the people who are paying the taxes for the services that you're providing aren't making at least what you're making, you can't call it unfair because, well, what's fair? Fair is the average. It would be what most other people are getting out there in the marketplace. But anyway, let's get the chat back in here. I'm going on a ramble here because I've been just on and on and on about this whole union situation. And I love chatting about it. I could probably go on about it forever. But let me just share with you, because I've shared all of this so much today. First, how the union was completely against the convoy, and how they're bringing tactics exactly that they accused the convoy of to the table. Now, they made the accusations at the time that the convoy was blocking borders. They weren't blocking borders. The borders that had blockages or slow rolls or blocking single lanes, they always kept emergency lanes open. They always had it open for other means. Same thing with Ottawa, and same thing with all this. I see Anita down there, and she's in the chat, and I'll bring her in a little bit here. So just hang on that one. I'm losing myself here. So the union is coming in and they're saying, here's what we're going to do in a letter that they published. We're going to shut down access to the Port St. John's Bridge, a part of the critical transportation infrastructure of Canada. We're going to block all these different critical infrastructure places, and these are the plans that we're going to do. When the convoy was saying, we're not doing that, stop telling us that we're doing that. I'm wondering what Anita's doing down there. I have her in the picture-in-picture, but we're going to bring her in a little bit here. And I'm going to go into some of these things. So again, a historic day. This is a letter that they put out there. Imagine if the Freedom Convoy did all of this, because these are the accusations of what the Freedom Convoy had done. Demanding raises, Ottawa roads blocked by government workers demanding raises, remote work. The main point of me putting this out there and saying all of this is to show how hypocritical people are when it's the cause that they are concerned about. Now, the cause that is being concerned about here is not the cause for a lot of people out there. They're not really concerned about government workers. Some people are in fact don't want government workers to get paid more than private sector workers, and I happen to be one of them. I happen to be a taxpayer, and I happen to think that if you want something fair is what the taxpayers at least are earning, and you shouldn't make any more than that. So that being said, where was I going with this? I wanted to get to at least the last meme of this whole thing. This is of the 120,000 PSAC members that are on strike. The Freeloaders Convoy represents 80% of the 42,000 members who actually voted. And this came from a, I think it was National Post article where they said that only 42,000 members of the union actually voted whether to go on strike or not. And 80% of those people voted to go on strike. So there's actually, 20% of those people didn't want to go on strike. And this is the tiniest minority of even the government workers that are this. Now, people are asking the question, and by the way, here's the meme that went out. Wanted to go back to work. This is the Convoy. And want to go back to bed. The PSAC workers. Here we go. Now, people asking the question. Here's Videon Mode on Twitter saying, one has to wonder, of the 42,000 members that voted, what was the distribution of the people that voted in favor? Perhaps most are living in Ottawa. Here, COL is high and would spur people to demand more money. The cost of living is definitely a lot higher in Ottawa, but so is it all over Canada. It's going way, way up all the time. Jacques, is that Jacques? Verillo. I'm so bad with pronouncing names. Thank you so much for joining the channel and becoming a member here on YouTube. Really appreciate that. Thank you so much. We're going to move on to the next story before we get to Anita, before Anita comes in. I wanted to talk about Bill C-11, and this is going to have a lot to do with, so Anita, when she comes in, she's going to tell us what happens in the mainstream, but a lot of us have been paying attention to what's going on outside of the mainstream on the internet, and a lot of people are purveyors of news, opinion, people will say truth, but I mean, these are opinions, or these are facts, and this is actual news. What you see in the mainstream media is arguably not really news, but propaganda. Now, this is definitely going to affect your ability to see this stuff. Here we have it. Alberta Prosperity Project tweets out, the Internet Censorship Bill C-11 just passed. This is a shameful government campaign that gaslights the public, disrespects creators, and ironically has been filled with misinformation coming from the same government who is now telling us to trust them to filter the news we are allowed to see online. There is no reversing this bill. This bill has been now passed into law. Our only option is Alberta independence. This is the Alberta Prosperity Project, obviously saying this. Please register your intention to vote yes in this thing. But here we are, 52 yays to 16 nays. 52 senators in our Senate voted for this after it was rammed through the House of Parliament with no debate. They brought it back. It was supposed to be amended and then brought back. I'm not sure what if any amendments were made. It was rammed through, shoved through, and here we are with it being part of our lives now in Canada. Here's True North reporting Trudeau's online censorship law, Bill C-11, passes Parliament. The Trudeau government online censorship law now is past the final stage of voting in the Senate, received royal assent, and became law on Thursday evening. Of course, because this is what they do. You do it on a Thursday evening because then it gets drowned out in the Friday. By the time you get back to the Monday, nobody's talking about it. The news has already moved on to the next thing. Whoever they can talk about, pull up some irrelevant garbo. But hopefully we will be talking about the China situation, which they are also dropped. This also came at the end of this week. Bill C-11, which updates Canada's Broadcasting Act, will subject digital content creators to regulation by the Canadian Radio Television Communications Commission, the CRTC for short. Senators voted 52 to 16 in support of the bill becoming law. Critics of the bill have argued that Bill C-11 will allow the government to interfere with the algorithms of content that Canadians are able to consume online. The government claims the bill will not apply to individuals who post on social media. Well, they always make these claims. This is how they get bills passed. And saying that it doesn't affect the algorithms, write that in the law. And that was the problem with this law in the first place, is the vague, open language. And this is why it got sent back, but it still got rammed through. It came originally as Bill C-10. It's now Bill C-11. It's now law. It got squashed as Bill C-10. It got squashed as Bill C-11, thrown back to the Senate for debate, which was shut down and then rammed through. This is where we are. But yeah, the open language of the law makes it really difficult for people that do online content. And you're talking about yours truly here, the Clyde Do Something channel, your favorite YouTubers, your favorite content creators. They'll all be subject to this law now moving forward. And we're going to have Canadian content. Again, of course, Trudeau introducing this, saying, this is about heritage of Canada, making sure that Canadians get to see enough Canadian content, as if, there's something, important about our heritage. And in the same breath, he goes around telling Canada that there is no identity for Canadians. How can both of those things both be true? They cannot both be true. But that's how hypocrites work. This is how hypocrisy works. Again, everybody else, all the other news medias, your CTV News talking about Liberals online streaming bill C-11 passes Parliament. Again, just another mainstream media source. This doesn't exist anymore. Boo. People are having their posts taken down, I guess, on Twitter that there was a poignant post. I wish I remembered what it was, but it was about C-11 and it's gone. It's Gandhi. It's off the internet. See you later. Hope maybe someone got that on a time, the Wayback Machine or something like that. But here we are. The post-millennial reporting. Breaking: Trudeau's internet censorship bill becomes law. Of course, you might not see so much of the post-millennial anymore because they're so critical of the government. Now, this is where we are with this bill. By the way, the issue with it is it's always good intentions, right? It's the road to hell, of course, being paved with good intentions. And even if some of these laws get passed with the good intentions and they don't have nefarious means, and that's why they keep the language so open. I mean, if they really cared about this stuff, they would close the language. They would really close the language in the bill, but they made sure to keep that open-ended so that it can be interpreted down the road for things that are what they claim that they're not for. But even if there was some people that voted on this, assuming that the intentions were good, well, that's, again, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and this is bad news. Yeah, there you go. Don, MAID is a perfect example for that open language in the law. MAID was brought in with the purpose of making it possible for people that are suffering and having a hard time to end things on their own terms. But then here we are, gone completely crazy, full stop, where it's being offered to veterans for PTSD. It's being offered to apparently opening up for teenagers under the guise of mature minors to go around their parents parents' consent for this to use the MAID service. And that it's unreal. And even people in Quebec discussing whether or not it should be used on infants. This is gross. It's gross. And this is, I mean, Tucker Carlson even saying, recently, with the abortion debate, there are people out there that say, there are exceptions where it should be allowed. And these are nuanced topics and these are nuanced things. Everybody's hoping for the best outcome for everybody in the world. And you know, you can hear other people with their arguments, but when they turn around and they're offering it to people as like a good thing to do, you know, I think it was Secretary General or someone in the U.S. said, if you want to help the economy in America, you have an abortion. That's just evil. It's just evil at that point. You're not discussing nuance. You're telling people that what is known and everybody knows for themselves as a bad thing, that maybe there are certain scenarios where they could be allowable. No, you're toting this as a good thing. And as Tucker Carlson recently said, and which wound him up getting fired from Fox News, was that it's child sacrifice. It's an Aztec approach to society, and this is really, really gross, and it's hard to deal with. And I'm rambling on, and I do this often. This is just something that I tend to do in my live streams, but I'm so glad that everybody tunes in for this. Before the Liberals approve the maid service, they should be customers themselves. Come on. No, we're not going there, folks. We're not going there. You're correct. It is child sacrifice. Well, it is. I mean, and I know there's conspiracy theorists out there that are saying these people praise, you know, Moloch and stuff. I don't know about that stuff. But I think this is when things go too far. This is when things go absolutely absurd, and we step off the deep end. And I really, really do appreciate Tucker Carlson's point in that speech at Heritage. And if you haven't seen it, it's about 30 or 40 minutes long. It's well worth the view. Watch it in its entirety. He makes so much sense, and it was ultimately it was that speech, apparently I'm hearing from other people, that led to Rupert Murdoch himself saying, you gotta go, we can't have you anymore. But yeah, he really went after all the things that really, really people care about. He went after he went with the anti-war stance. He went with the idea that this is a war of good and evil out there. And I really, one point that really resonated for me was, you know, we used to be a society that we would be, you know, discussing things that we can implement because we all had the same goal. The goal at the end of the day was we wanted to have a prosperous society where everybody gets along, you know, and there's less crime, and there's all these, you know, good things that works out in a homogenous society. And when I say homogenous, I mean homogenous in the sense that people all have the same mission in society, homogenous of thought, of ideology and pursuit. But that's not what we have today. We have one side that wants all that stuff, and then we have another side that wants to tear it all down. They want to destroy it, and they're bent on destruction, because it's not until they see destruction that they can build up whatever it is that they want from the ashes. And I'll tell you what, you're not going to get something good from the ashes. That's never the case. That's never the case. I mean, when people lost their minds over Marie Antoinette and the corruption that was going on in France at the time, they lashed out and they tore it all down. And what did they end up with? They ended up with Napoleon. So be careful what you wish for. It's not always the best bet that you're gonna get this or that and think that it's gonna be a great ordeal. But these are my views, and I'm just putting them out there for people to work with. But I'm gonna try here to get Anita in here so we can chat about this stuff together, because she has a lot to actually share with us here in the community. And let me just do this. I'm just doing some stuff behind in the background, setting some things up so that I can bring Anita in here with me. And of course, always having to resize and just make things work out. Oh God, I'm doing all of this on the fly. I love doing it, and I'm not always great at it, but let's work this out. Okay, let's bring Anita in here now. Anita.
Hello.
Hey, okay,
Hi.
I've got you really loud. I'm gonna turn you down a little bit here.
Okay.
And awesome, great to finally have you. And
Aw.
we were chatting earlier in text. I haven't met you yet. This is my
Mm-hmm.
first time to actually meet you. And while I'm talking to you here, I'm going to be resizing you and moving you around
Okay.
on the
Good.
screen here. But uh, really appreciate you coming on today. Such short notice, you reached out to me. You had reached
I
out to
wanted to
me.
talk to you
Yes, and
because I'm a fan of yours.
oh, that's amazing. I was really
Because I
excited
think that you're
to hear
doing
from you.
such a great job, and you should never beat yourself up because you're a one-man band. You're hosting and bringing in the clips and, bringing in the guests. And in a TV studio, you have people to do that for you, so you can just relax and host. But when you're an independent, you're doing everything. You're a one-man band,
Yes.
and I just admire you because you do it so well,
Well,
and
thank you.
good for you because, like, you know when I was the director, the host just is the host. Okay, they just hosting the thing, reading the teleprompter, whatever, and the questions are all in there. I mean, they can think for themselves too, but the questions are all in there. We need to bring in guests. They've got producers telling them what to do, and I'd be framing the shot and then pressing the buttons and bringing the person in. But I've done what you do too, and you have to kind of all do it by yourself. And
Yes.
it just shows you how talented people are out there.
Well, I appreciate
Yeah.
that. Thank you. So
Mhm.
for the audience that don't know who you are, can you introduce yourself and say what you used to do? Tell us what you used to do first, and then we'll go through the whole journey
Okay.
of where we are now.
Well, okay. So I've been in broadcasting for many years. Like, it's the only profession that I really know or feel like I can do, right?
Hmm.
So I worked at Global pretty much for 24 years. But during that time, I came and went. There were times where I freelanced and stuff, and then I went off and did other jobs, and I worked for City TV and CTV and Shaw, and then I also worked in radio. I worked for CKNW. I worked briefly for CFUN, if anybody remembers that, around here in Vancouver.
I'm not
You don't
originally from out
remember?
here. I'm from Ontario originally.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I grew up in
So yeah, this is
Windsor,
just.
Ontario. So I grew up
Oh,
with
okay.
Detroit TV. Like that's what I grew up with.
Cool.
Yeah, it was different.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah. And we grew up with like KVOS and King 5. Like, that was across the border for us, right? The
Hmm.
Seattle stations or whatever. So yeah, so I worked in radio briefly, and then I moved to New Zealand for a little bit with the family, and then I worked for Radio New Zealand there. I was a producer, and I worked at I produced a talk show there, a morning talk show or whatever. So, but primarily for about 24 years, I worked at Global News, and I was not a famous person.
That's a
Like,
long stint.
um,
That's a good amount of time to be with one organization.
yes, 24 years.
Wow.
Like,
Since you were
I
like
started
a
when I was
teenage,
3.
since you were like 3, right? You were just a
Yes,
baby. They
I was
hired you on
3.
child
That's what I
labor in
tell people.
Canada. Wow.
I I so I bloody well worked there for so long. I was an exemplary employee. I never let them down. I was a hardworking uh, individual for them, and I was a director. So I basically like directed the TV shows. So the producers make the newscast, they editorially line up the newscast, and we execute it. And my job is not. I didn't have any editorial control. So whenever I do a podcast, I make sure that I tell people that. Not that I'm like trying to cop out, but I'm just saying I don't make the show. So the producers line up the 6 o'clock news. So I just cut the cameras. Okay, so we're going to start on a 2 shot. It's going to be camera 2, like this. What's the next shot? Who's reading the next intro? It's all technical. Are we going to the helicopter next? Are we going to the legislative bureau chief next? Where are we going next? I just cut it all together, and make the show. So it's a very fast paced thing.
Hmm.
And so that was my job. As it was basically a technical director in a control room. But when you sit there and you watch the 6 o'clock news at home, it would be myself and another guy, because they downsized so much. But anyway, it's myself putting those pictures to air
Right.
by pressing buttons, and that
It's a
was
fun
my
job
job.
though, right? Like
Yes.
it's hustle bustle. There's a lot going on. You
Yeah.
gotta nail it. You gotta cue it. You gotta make sure
Yeah.
that's coming next, and
Oh,
it's
yeah.
wild. I think it's a lot
It's
of fun.
wild. It is wild. Like you run a story, let's say, oh, a barn burned down in Aldergrove today, blah, blah, blah. Bob Smith has the story or whatever, right? And then you roll the story
Yeah,
and
cut to
then
that.
cut to that, take it, and then say the story is 2 minutes and 17 seconds. Well, I time it. We used to, I was so old, I used to time it with a stopwatch, right? So you'd look at the stopwatch and then you'd say to the anchor in their ear, okay, 1 minute back to you, 30 seconds, 10, and then you count them down, then boom, go cue, and then they read the next intro, right? But while that story is going on, the barn fire story or whatever, you're going to what's next. What camera is it? Which anchor is it? Am I going to sports next? Where am I going next? Is it a live hit? And when you see the reporters out in the field and you're like, okay, I'm coming to you in 2 minutes. And they're like, yeah, like this. And then sometimes it's like, I don't have my clip. I don't have this. My microphone broke or what, all that kind of
Yeah.
hustle and bustle. That's what a
So you
live
got to
newscast was.
reconfigure
Yeah.
the format like
Yeah.
as it's going because there's a technical
As it's
difficulty
going.
over there.
So then you'll say in the anchor's ear, we don't have Bob Smith. Move on to this. And you have to
Wow.
say it really clear. What's the next thing? Cue up the next thing. And it's like you sometimes have 5-10 seconds to make a decision when something craps out last minute. So that was the fun of it. That was the thrill of it and the excitement of it, and also probably the stress of it too. But that was all part of the job.
Yeah.
And so yeah. So
That's
that's the
amazing.
job I
That
did for
sounds
a
like
long
such a
time.
fun job to do. Like people watch
Yeah.
the news and they see things work in a linear fashion and they just assume that everything works like that. Like
Yeah.
as I got into
There's
broadcasting online, I mean I'm a one man show. I don't have all these
Yeah.
other cameras and stuff, but I've been bringing people
Yeah.
in for interviews. And this
Yeah.
is actually the first time to do it live, like on
Yeah.
the
Oh,
fly, and
yeah.
I'm like, whoa, enamored on how to also be the talent on screen as well as trying to do all this at the same time. So I get where you're coming from on that, but it's fun. I really enjoy doing it.
You'd probably be a very good director over there, right? Like, and you just have to focus on one thing. But us independents, we have to focus on so much with no help. Like we have no resources, and that's the thing that I see the most, right? That kind of makes me a little bitter sometimes. But it is very fun. But people have to keep in mind there's a lot you're thinking of when we roll in clips. When you're preparing a clip, you're doing all that and concentrating and hosting and trying to make a show. And this is something in TV that there's an army of people to help you with. But there's not in the independent world. It's just you.
Yeah,
It's
it's
just
just
me.
you. But we have the power of being our own editor, and this is the thing that I
Yeah.
love, the freedom of it. And
Yeah.
I guess we could get into why you don't work for the industry anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it really does come down to this because at the end of the day, people ask me
Hmm.
all the time. I was on Allison Morrow's channel yesterday, and
Hmm.
she was talking to me. She brought me on for Trudeau, the whole bit about Trudeau saying that he'd never forced
Oh
anyone
yeah.
into a vaccination. Like
Yeah.
what? Anyway, she brought me on for that, but then she asked like, what is the story with the news? Like, why are they really like lying? Are they all on board with this lie, or what is it? Are they in an echo chamber? What happens in the news that makes them all toe the line and go in this direction? And well, we're all seeing it now, but like everybody just kind of pontificates on what they think is the cause for the news to be so dishonest with us all the time. You've had a firsthand experience from it. You're out of the industry, you're not on an NDA, so you can talk about this. What is it really? Is it a conspiracy or is it a cultural thing?
Yeah. I think it's a bit of both. It's a bit of both. And it's something that I never, ever saw before, ever. Since it was just so clear during COVID, we're not going to report the other side of the story. Like, this is not going to happen. And how that happened, just as it is a mystery in your life, like with your friends and your neighbors, where some people still really believe it, that it saved them and all that. And you're like, how do you believe this? Like, just as much as it is in your personal life, it was kind of like that in the newsroom. Like, it was just something that I can't even describe it, like how it just permeated throughout the newsroom. Now, now I don't have any concrete evidence. We were never given an email. We were never given any wording or warning. At least I wasn't. I'm sure my bosses were told exactly from top down what to do and what not to talk about. But I can say personally, I never saw anything saying, don't you report on vaccine injury? Don't you dare report on medication for early treatment? Don't you dare report on the Wuhan laboratory? Don't you dare report on vitamin D and exercise. Don't you dare ever do a report on businesses shutting down. You just do the report as, and sadly, another business closed due to COVID. And literally, I don't know how many times the 5 o'clock anchor, I don't know how many times I did that show where she said that in the intro. And sadly, another business has closed down with no regard to go and send a reporter and tell a story as to why. Is this really a good idea?
Yeah.
And so there was no wording or email or anything that came down to say that. It just, I don't even know how it permeated, but it did. Okay. So somewhere, somebody must have known, you don't talk about certain medications, or you don't talk about this, or you don't talk about that. It was just a known thing. And so when I was in the newsroom as a director, nobody's asking me my opinion editorially on the stories. I'm just supposed to keep my mouth shut and put whatever I'm supposed to put on the air, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I would chirp up and I would talk like in closed rooms with my friends. And sometimes I would talk openly in the newsroom. And that never went down well at all. And so one time I brought up hydroxychloroquine, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually, one of my cousins got COVID really, really bad, and she was already taking this medication because she already took it for another illness that she had. And she told me, I think I got better in like 8 days. She goes, she thought it made her feel better. And so that's valid. You think it makes you feel better. Okay. And there's all these rumblings.
YouTube's terms of service would have me say, well, that's anecdotal and you can't really go by that. I mean, that's true.
Right.
And that's true.
Right. Okay. Yeah, true. You're on YouTube, so we have to be careful. But when
Yeah,
I brought that up, people would be angry at me. The 6 o'clock main anchor would be like, "Oh, she thinks that you made her better." Like, who would ever say that? In what world would you ever say that?
So this is off camera. People are
off camera.
So yeah. I had a similar thing. So I was at work and I mentioned something about Joe Rogan to a colleague. Mm-hmm. It was off topic. It wasn't about the COVID or anything like that. And she's like, "Well, what's that guy know? He took horse paste."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Oh wow, this is crazy because this person is not stupid, right? I'm talking about a fellow, a colleague of mine. I'm a mechanic by trade. We're not dummies,
right?
I know a lot of people want to think of us as goobers and grease monkeys and all that stuff. No, we're highly trained professional people with schooling, right? Like this, none of us get the job that we have without rigorous training, and it's not easy stuff. So this person, hook, line, and sinker, just went like, I heard the narrative and that was it. It just goes in and that's just what I know now. Joe Rogan talks about horse paste, and so the crazy part. The crazy thing about it is it permeates society. Once these lies get shown, like thrown out there, and nobody challenges them, it just becomes what it is, and anybody else is a crazy conspiracy theorist.
Yeah. Like all these people who claim to be listening to scientists or to know what the right thing was, they were only listening to the news. And they were only listening to one doctor. So when the news, I when I worked there, ran stories on what a fool Joe Rogan was, because on the those were the stories on our news feeds that we'd get, like what a dummy he is. Look at this dumb shock jock host. oh, he took this horse paste, which was wrong. But I remember running that story
It's
because there was like a
dishonest.
campaign.
It was completely dishonest to call it
Completely
a
dishonest.
horse medicine. It was people medicine. It's real
Right.
people recommended by
People
from
can
a
take
people
it.
doctor.
Right, like, just like you can take penicillin for animals and for humans, but the thing is, it's inaccurate information, and it doesn't talk about what that medication actually is and the history of it and what it cures, but when the news
The
tells you,
Nobel
"Oh my
Prize is
gosh."
given away for that medicine. It's discovery. Like, it's incredible.
Yeah, they got the Nobel Prize and whatever, the news didn't tell you that, why didn't we tell you that? Why on earth would we not have put that in the story?
Well, and that's the real question. So, like, where is this information coming from? So, like,
Because we have been penetrated. Like, that's the thing. Like, we all your instant we
the
didn't know then.
cabinets and the news has been penetrated.
The media, and now
Yeah.
they have penetrated these whatever's going on in this world, whatever you think it is. Whoever's doing all this, we all have theories on that. Like, oh, maybe it was kind of,
Well, let me give you a little pushback, just a little bit of pushback on that. So
Yeah.
at the time during COVID, even good friends of mine and myself, we'd been separated because of the whole thing and because of how the news was and how weird and this weird Twilight Zone feeling that everybody had because of it. A lot of friends weren't even talking to each other about it. You'd run into them, you'd be like, yeah, anyway, and you drop hints, right? You'd be like, yeah, so I heard about a guy who got the thing and turned out it wasn't all that bad, right? And then you just wait for a response and see what they say, and then you're like, okay, he's part of the, you know what I mean? He's part of the crew.
Yes.
He's okay. He's not crazy. Yeah. And that was
it's amazing how everybody censored themselves in
Yes.
society. Like, I can't talk about this or someone's going to get mad at me. That's the lunacy of it.
Yes.
That's us being captured. So as much as society was captured, we were captured too in the newsroom. So if this information comes down through your news wires, like all the about this drug we're talking about or whatever, that's just what you're going to believe. No one's going to look into it. But the problem is we're the broadcasters. We're the journalists. That's our bloody job. It's not like we work at London Drugs or something and we're not supposed to know anything. We are supposed to be telling you the other side of the story. And when you hear another side, you follow the other side. And they didn't.
Yeah, it's crazy because like the past day I've been arguing with people on Twitter because I had one tweet that really blew up, making fun of the PSAC workers for the strike and saying that last year we had the Freedom Convoy and this year we have the Freeloader Convoy, and that was the joke, and a lot of people laughing about it, but then people from the union chime in and they're all angry and they wanted to have a COVID debate. I'm like, why are we having a COVID debate? We're talking about you wanting too much money, but it went back to that, and I noticed, and I hadn't heard it in months, but people spouting what is now known as disinformation, and I had to reply to a few of them like this. We all have hindsight now. Why are you still saying that unvaccinated people are a danger to vaccinated people? Or,
why were they even saying that? That's got nothing to do with what they're striking for. Like, what? I don't even understand.
But there was the whole idea of vaccine mandates was to stop the spread, and we all know that not to be true anymore.
Right.
Like that it doesn't do that. It doesn't do that. Anyone will get it. Originally, I remember at the beginning of it, it was we all need to get herd immunity, right?
Whatever. Yeah.
Well, and that came naturally anyway. And we got there.
Yeah.
We're there now.
Yeah.
And I think they stopped pushing it so much because people were fed up with it. And I think the convoy was a wake-up call for a lot of people, and it snapped a lot of people out of it. But not everybody. And that's what I learned this week. It's crazy how some people are they almost like a blankie. They have to have it. They have their COVID blankie that keeps them warm and at night or whatever.
Well, a couple of things, like you have to stick to that narrative, because if you wake up, how can you psychologically face yourself? And maybe how you treated people, and maybe what you did, and maybe what this country did to its own people. If you actually have to wake up from that reality, it's too hard, and maybe people don't.
So
and that's what it is. That's why they have that COVID blanket.
Hold on to it forever, though? Is that...
You can't hold on. If you don't know by now, you look at the evidence, the people that I worked with, I feel like rattling them and shaking them for how they misinform the public, how much harm they cause, and how now they can just turn the other cheek and go on talking about other stupid things in the news when so many people have been harmed and they don't have any consequences.
No.
But and it sickens me actually. But the thing also about PSAC is how tone deaf are you people? You are already making enough money. Inflation is already high. The government services are absolute a joke as it is.
Yeah.
Getting your and how dare you maybe claim to shut down ports and things like that? And then you are so hypocritical when you judge the convoy people, right? For shutting down the border or whatever. They had a lane going through. What else is a protest supposed to be? It's supposed to be disruptive. Do you think a protest is you stand on the sidewalk and let life go on? A protest is you have to disrupt because you want the government to do something. And now these PSAC people, you're not getting any sympathy from them. Since I've been fired, I had to go get a normal job. I tell you, the wages for normal jobs are not great. So
Mm-hmm.
be happy with what you get when your government gave all the damn money to Ukraine or whatever. They printed all this money, wasted it. They don't. You're not getting a raise. So shut up, sit down, take a seat, stop. I don't know. They're honking their horns. I guess it's okay for them to honk their horns, and what's not okay for us or
Well, they
whatever,
only
right?
do it 4 hours a day, and that bless them, bless them. They can't stand on their feet for more than that in a day. But I mean, what do
Yeah.
you expect from our government workers here in
But
Canada?
they did not stand up for people who lost their jobs, like the healthcare
No,
workers
they
and the
did not.
nurses, for not taking this, what is now known to be a toxin. Like,
I'm gonna for again
you know,
for YouTube's
oh yeah,
sake,
yeah,
for YouTube's sake, it's
it's safe and effective.
it's a thing that's recommended by certain entities out there, and it is now something that people can take a choice on whether they want to have
Yes, you can
or
even
not.
take it if you want it. The community guidelines tell you, I don't know what they say or whatever the rules are here. I'm always getting kicked off YouTube. I have so
That's why I'm
I've
being
actually tried.
careful with you tonight on
Yeah,
this one,
yeah, yeah.
because we're live as
I,
well. This isn't pre-recorded, so I can't
yes,
even.
you got to rein me in because I don't know, but call it what you want. There are other YouTubers whose channels survive talking about this stuff. So
Well, as long as you give the
you
caveat,
clear this
right?
up.
So,
This is me
and
saying it, not you. So I don't
yeah,
want your channel to be affected.
well,
Yeah,
no, and I'm
yeah.
obviously giving the caveat that it's claimed that it's safe and effective, all these other things, yada yada. But this is the case, and now, and like talking about
Mhm.
the ivermectin thing and talking about the hydroxychloroquine, the chloroquine thing. Immediately, it was how can we demonize Trump because he brought it up. Like
Mhm.
that's
Mhm.
initially what I thought about that one. It was when the IVEC, that one, when the horse paste and all that
Mhm.
stuff came about, then it really it dawned on me, okay, we're on to something different, right? We're on to
Mhm.
a different beast here. Why is it they're
Mhm.
going after that? And it turns out, the smoke clears and we all find out what happened at the end of the day. It was they needed the emergency declaration, and they can't have the emergency measures if there was another type of treatment for it.
Yeah, you couldn't have the EUA, like the emergency, what is it? The emergency use authorization
Yeah.
of the vaccine if there's already pre-existing medication.
Or
So that's why
if not, it would
they
have to
had to be
go through the
demonized.
trials, and it would have to go through all the normal FDA
Yeah,
approval. What's the Canadian FDA anyway?
the Health Canada,
Oh, Health Canada.
like
Yeah. So the
Health
same.
Canada approval, yeah.
Yeah. So it would have to go through all those approval. It takes years, right? It takes years for these things to go through. It turns out that they did the test, and it was just on all of us, So it was like that was their
Because,
test run.
well, I won't say, but it's not really approved either.
Well, it's not. Yeah.
You know, I
Yeah.
so I'm not even gonna go there because I'll just get you into trouble. But the point is, what do you have the bloody news for?
Very
We're
good.
supposed to be telling you all this. And we didn't tell you anything, and we're still not telling you anything about anything, right? And now my whole world is turned upside down because now I don't believe anything. I'm like, what did I report? I think like that anthrax thing wasn't what it was either. Like all the stories that you think about that I worked on my whole life, I'm like, oh my God. It just I'm having this, there's a great awakening going on amongst all of us that perhaps we were lied to about so many things.
Well, there was
And
a lot
that
of
this,
things that
yeah.
did get uncovered. I mean, Iran Contra
Mhm,
was a scandal
mhm,
that took place, and the media was
mhm,
behind it. The lead
mhm.
up to the Iraq War, that was all a scandal. That it was the media was absolutely behind that.
Behind
This
that, we
Ukraine
never said
thing is the media
anything.
is
Yeah, yeah,
completely behind that as
yeah,
well.
yeah.
What was it that the Desert Storm? How they sold Desert Storm? They had a little girl
Mhm,
who said she was a young lady. She said she was a nurse, and she had a story about Iraqi soldiers coming in to a room with incubators and children, uh,
mhm,
prematurely born children, and then pulling them
mhm.
out and dropping them on the floor to die. This this was a story that was
Oh,
told at a
that's kind of
congressional
ringing a bell. Yeah,
meeting in the early
yeah.
90s or late 80s, early
Oh, yes,
90s.
yes,
And
yes.
it turned out that young lady was actually like a princess from some Arabic nation
Yes,
in the Middle East, and she was put up to
yeah,
it, and it was all a lie, and it was there just to sell the Desert Storm
yes,
invasion, and
yes,
and the media knew about it, but they still went along with it.
yeah,
Like it's
yeah.
gross.
It's it's unethical, and it's the media that sits there and says, "Oh, we follow journalistic principles." Yeah. Do you? No, you don't. And the thing is, we might believe that princess who's testifying or whatever. We don't know what's behind it. We just see it on TV and we believe it, and we have trust in our anchors. We have trust in those names. Now people are starting to trust YouTubers and independents because they don't have anybody to trust anymore. That man in the suit and tie under the bright lights is not the man to trust anymore. Now they know that. He's led you astray, whether he was being deceived himself. And he probably was. They're not that smart, these people. They're not that smart,
It's a tremendous
these
weight,
journalists.
though. I mean, like as an independent, don't you feel it now that like it's so easy. You could change the narrative all you want. It is possible to do that as somebody. You could just you have an audience or a captive audience, and they love what you have to say, and they like your ideas. They like the sound of your voice, whatever it
Mhm,
is, right?
mhm.
And you could totally lie to them. I mean, you'd lose your
Yeah,
credibility. It would be gone very quickly. But if you wanted to,
yeah.
you could lie to people and send them in the wrong direction as well.
You can, but the funny thing is people like all the independents do this because we want so much the truth to come out. And we would never do that. And I think there has to be retractions. Like if you've led people astray in the news, if you report something wrong in the news, we have to do a make good. We have to report it accurately, and we have to write some copy and get your anchor to read it that we misreported such and such. It's actually such and such. They would have 3 years of reporting to catch up on all the lies, the people going, the hospitals, what was happening, the hospital numbers. People get sick all the time. We don't put it on the news, but it was a thing, right? It was panic all over the world. All the newscasters were doing it. All your governments were doing it. We
Hmm.
just didn't realize what was going on.
Well,
We
what
didn't.
comes
We
to
didn't.
mind when I talk about the independents, like the Young Turks, if you ever tuned into them,
Hmm.
they're
Hmm.
independents,
Yeah.
and holy cow, they've got a narrative, and they're letting people astray. But Anna Kasparian, the co-host of that show, apparently she's becoming more and more based as time goes on. She's
Hmm.
as she's gained more wealth and independence as a
Hmm.
person. A
Hmm.
lot of people are calling her out and saying, "Wait, why are you disagreeing with this?" And she's slowly. I think it's along the lines of, have you ever heard the old expression that when you're in your 20s, if you're not a liberal, you have no heart, and if
Kind of.
and in your
Yeah.
40s, if you're not a conservative, you don't have a brain. It's
Yeah.
kind of like that whole thing. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't consider myself a conservative. I have my own thoughts on
Mhm.
ideology and all that stuff. I definitely
Mhm.
don't lean towards where the liberals are at the moment, or the crazy
No,
left. But it's a weird one
they've lost
because,
their mind.
yeah, it's a
Mhm.
weird one because if you ever really reach somebody, even if they are on the liberal side of things, by the end of a conversation, they'll be like, "Well, if that's what they're doing, I'm I'm an old school liberal." You know what I mean? They
Mhm.
they
Mhm.
won't they won't like go along with that, but they still want that they don't want to be labeled a conservative or something because it's a bad word.
Yeah, the the conservatives are what the old school liberals were. We want choice and we want a good economy. A lot of us believe in family. We want our kids to just be kids. What's wrong with that? We don't want them sexualized in schools. You want to make a choice, you do what you want. Live your life, be happy. That's what we want. That's what being a liberal used to be. That's not a liberal. A liberal nowadays, if you call them the wrong thing, they're trying to. If you don't, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
they want to cancel you. They want to shut
Cancel you. Why you want
your bank
to cancel
accounts
everybody
down
all the
and
time?
on
Shut
purpose,
everything down.
person people.
This
Yeah.
it's insane. And then being conservative is not a bad word. Being anti is not a bad word. I don't care anymore. I don't use those labels. I'll tell you something. When I was walking around at Global and stuff like that, you could go around and you could say, I don't really believe in God. You could say, I'm just not sure that that's a thing. I'm just not sure I really believe in all that. You could say that and people go, oh, okay. But if you went around and you said, I'm not sure I believe in the, you know what? I'm not sure I really believe in that. I'm not sure that that's a thing.
But I think that label
Like,
got thrown on people that was undeserving. I mean, like
hated. Yeah.
anti-vax was that was a statement that was reserved for like Jenny McCarthy types, like the people who believed that vaccines would give people autism, which is just out to lunch, right? And that
I don't know, is it?
Oh yeah, it turned out
I don't know.
Yeah, no, it turned out that was all cooked up by one doctor, and that's all that ever came from.
Andrew Wakefield, but
yeah.
I think though, I don't know. I still think you should have choice with that one.
Well, you can believe whatever you want to believe.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell people what to believe or what not to believe.
Yeah.
But that's where people were aligned with, right? So like,
yeah.
So it was seen as a mainstay, as like people who don't want to have their smallpox vaccine and all these like critical ones, like going to the Amazon, I'm going to get my malaria vaccine. People do that because it makes sense.
Yeah.
And the technologies, they're there and they're safe, effective. They do the thing. They actually immunize you, which at an actual like scientific level is actually happening. But but people who don't want to take this current bout of stuff that they're putting out there, it doesn't put you in that camp. But it's this awful thing that people have done is equated one group with another group. It's kind of like if you want lower taxes, you're a white supremacist. And it's just absolutely bonkers. It's bonkers to throw people in these extreme categories when they don't have extreme thoughts and they don't have extreme views.
Yeah, there's nothing extreme about it at all. It's too bloody new and we don't want it. And you withholding other things. And then you fired us and didn't allow us to go into restaurants and gyms and churches. You are wrong.
Well, and just the risk reward risk analysis didn't work, right? So like, I mean, a healthy young person doesn't really need to have it. And that's
so get off my nuts. Like, get off me. Like, why are we on everybody? Because everybody's just like, you're harming society. You're not participating in the greater good. But we've seen the results of that. I'm sure you've talked to many. I don't know. You know what's going on.
I know what's going on,
right? Like, there's too much. I mean, blood clots. No.
Yeah, we have. There's a lot of things being said about what's happening out there, and of course, we have to be careful what's being said. What things that we're trying to purvey, and of course they're always safe and effective, as what the YouTube terms of service will have me say all of this stuff is. But at the end of the day, it should be your decision, and that's where I think people really miss the ball on any of this stuff, is that and especially like liberal-minded people on the liberal camp that have always said my body, my choice. For particular things, they weren't so keen on this one in this sort of scenario.
Don't even see their own hypocrisy. They don't even see it, and it's I don't know. I really blame all this on the news. I really do, because it's your grandma, your mom, your sister, whatever, watching the news, and they just follow the news. And if they're in bed with the government and then the government is texting you, it's time to get your booster, you just think, "Oh, I got to do this." And if you're not, how many people do we know that work 9 to 5, come home, eat dinner, whatever, watch Netflix, that's it. All these things, and think about you and what you've covered: the maid, the Bill C-11, the PSAC stuff, the POEC emergency commission, like the emergency hearings. You've covered stuff going on in BC, the CSAP stuff, and so you're doing your best to tell us what's going on. That is the job of the bloody news.
I gotta
And the
walk on
news
eggshells
isn't telling
though.
you anything.
I mean, here's the
Huh?
thing: I gotta walk on eggshells because I'm on YouTube,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And YouTube's got their terms of service. They say you can't say this, you can't say that. They're very vague about what you are allowed to say. It's not very straight to the point. Like if you want to cover these
Mhm.
subjects, you don't know if it, and it may depend on who's moderating and who's looking at it that day. If
Mhm.
it ends up on their plate, whether you're doing the thing or not. But while you're trying to give people the truth of what's happening out there. And I always try to let people decide, right? And that's my main goal, my main determination. I'll give people my opinion, but at the same time, here are the facts. Here's my opinion. Decide for yourself. It really is up to you. And at the end of the day,
Mhm.
these are your decisions
Yeah.
to be making, and how.
You're very good at just presenting it, like, just, "Okay, okay, that's what I gotta tell you," right? Yeah, and then that's why you're surviving on YouTube. You've danced the dance
I dance the
very
dance.
carefully.
But that's the thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, of course, like you're on Rumble, and we're gonna make sure that your links are available for everybody
Oh,
to
thank
get
you.
over there.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
Rumble's come about because of all of the restriction here that's happening. I happen to do much better on YouTube. Rumble, I don't
Mhm.
know why they don't recommend my stuff. I post it.
Mm,
I post it every day on Rumble, but YouTube has taken off,
mhm.
and this is where a majority of the audience is. So I'm
It's
obviously going to run with it.
amazing, yeah. It's amazing because you don't shy away from stuff, you do talk about stuff, like
I've been
the
spanked.
oh, okay,
I
yeah,
did get
yeah,
spanked.
yeah.
I covered I covered when Pfizer had their
Mhm,
documents had to come out, and I covered that,
mhm,
and I got in trouble. I got in
mhm,
trouble. So we got
mhm. I
we
think I got kicked off too when, yeah,
yeah,
mhm.
I got spanked when it came to that. But
But you have to stop and think for just 1 second. Oh, sorry, I'm gonna be very careful. Like, what kind of world are we living in where that happens? What are you doing wrong? Are you doing anything wrong? Are you No.
no, I'm not doing
You're
anything. I
just
don't
trying to
believe I'm doing
report
anything
what
wrong.
some document that has come from that company. So you're getting slapped for that? So that's not right.
No, it
And
isn't.
that's why people are that's not right. You are not doing one thing wrong. And now if we stop and look, there's probably plenty of YouTube videos that show how to do things that people shouldn't be looking at. I'm sure I can go on YouTube and find out how to make something I shouldn't be, come on. Those videos don't get taken off of YouTube. They got all the videos on YouTube. You can watch people cage fighting like in the street and stuff like that. Like you can watch all kinds of bad things. They're not getting slapped. Why not? Why are you?
Because
Because we've
yes,
been infiltrated.
it's not. It's controversial. And it's not even just
Yeah.
about controversial, and it's not about ad friendly or not, because you get dinged with those periodically. You cover a story that at the moment the censors don't want you to cover, so they'll give you that, the yellow dollar sign, the demonetized. And
Oh.
immediately when that happens, you get no reach on that video. The video just doesn't get
Mhm.
it doesn't get recommended out to people.
Mhm.
So the main purpose of trying to toe the line, walk on the eggshells, and try to get your story out there is so that you can reach your audience, because YouTube will actively suppress it. Well, it's not so much a suppression; it's more of they're not going to recommend it because they're not making any money
It's
on
a
it.
little minor shackle. They're shackling you a little bit,
It
a
is a
little bit.
shackle,
Like that. Yeah, it's like a shackle.
so you got to
Yeah,
be
yeah.
clever. You got to dance around it. You
You're
got
well, you've been clever. You're thriving on there. So
thank you.
and providing a service. Because sometimes when I need to find something, I'll like type it in and You can find it on Rumble, but on YouTube, then I notice you come up, and you also do a lot of Canadian content. So I hope that the Bill C-11 doesn't, you know, who knows what's going to happen. I think we'll be okay. I don't know. I
Well,
don't know.
so
But
there's a
anyway.
few theories about what might happen. So obviously, the Canadian government wants to actively be involved in the curating the algorithm and your recommendations feed. So if they say any Canadian news that's not news, they might be able to say that. But I think it's only 40%. So YouTube will largely recommend the things that you want, but 40% of it will be soiled with government recommendations, essentially, or government guidelined recommendations, which actually, and I heard about this from Mudahar from Some Ordinary Gamers channel. He knows he's from Toronto, and he's a real tech savvy guy, and he says this could actually hurt people who qualify for the Canadian content label because of the way the algorithm works. What could happen is the government says you have to give 40% attention to these people, because that's the law for radio and television, 40% Canadian content. So anyone who qualifies as Canadian content, they may put out in the chat right now, people, Muda, everyone loves Mudahar, but yeah, they may force out the recommendations, but they're recommending channels that you might not want to watch, but it just happens to be Canadian content. So YouTube's like, okay, whatever, we'll comply, here you go. And you don't end up watching what's recommended to you. So YouTube gets a notification for that channel as this channel sucks. Nobody watches it, even though we recommend it.
What? Like, what do you mean? Like, what would they recommend? Like, watch Corner Gas or something? Like, what would they like?
Well, no. So
if
a YouTuber were to fall under the Canadian content category, they would be YouTube's hands are tied. They have to recommend it out to more people from Canada.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So they would end up having to recommend it out to people who are not interested based on their algorithmic study of their profile of each user. So they'll be recommending it to people that they wouldn't normally recommend this content out to. And because of that, there would be less people actually clicking on it. So because there's less people clicking on it, even though they've been shown it, it shows in their algorithm. It shows in their statistics that we showed it to a bunch of people and nobody wants to watch it. This channel sucks. We're not recommending these videos out anymore, and it could derank your channel. And this is one thing that Mudahar was bringing up. So there's
that's a very clever way to do it.
Unintended consequences, right? And this is
which are deliberate on their part, because they know they're being sneaky. That's sneaky, what you just described to me.
It's sneaky, but I mean, it would be unintended at this point. I know there's a channel called The Spiffing Brit, and he's a channel, he likes to screw with the YouTube's algorithm and try to find little exploits and figure it out. And one exploit that he found out was if he was to recommend do advertisement for a channel on their live streams, and he would run advertisements for the channel. If he ran it in a very marginal group, like a group that fit the profile of the channel, then the channel would do really well. But if he inversely recommended that channel out to people who would never like it, like say recommend it to like Beauty Network and stuff like that, but it's news, people would not watch it, and it would actually inversely hurt the channel. And so the same thing worked with advertising, and I'm sure they're YouTube watches that guy like a hawk so that they can find out all the exploits, and they fix them right away. But these are issues that are genuine concern, that are more they're more apolitical issues. They're more just unintended consequences of this kind of thing. And I mean, people who study economics and stuff, they know a lot about unintended consequences. I'm a huge avid reader of economic stuff. I don't know why I'm a dork, but the idea of unintended consequences. So you disturb the market by putting in regulation, but you don't know what'll end up happening. It's kind of like throwing a goldfish in a pond. You think it's just gonna
Yeah.
end with the goldfish, like living its life out and being happy? No, you
No.
end up with like an invasive species now, and then it causes all kinds of problems down the road, and stuff that you wouldn't
But
even ever have
keep
thought of.
yeah. I mean, keep in mind, this is coming from this government. So there will be, however this all unfolds when that goldfish lands in the pond will probably be to their benefit. They don't put these things in for you or for Canadian content. I feel they put these things in for their benefit, and it goes along with controlling information. They
Hmm.
have controlled the mainstream media. However, it's come down, this whole very famous 600 million that they've given to all the mainstream networks and newspapers, and that goes down even to radio too. So if you're driving your kids to school and you're listening to two DJs, those DJs also have um they also have a narrative. Even though you think they're just talking casually, they have a narrative.
Yeah.
And so they know what they're supposed to say because their program director is going to be guiding them. They know that everybody knows the line they have to toe. And with the bot media, if you're just an average person, that is your world, and that's what gets in your brain. Like, one of my best friend doesn't even understand why Trudeau isn't the world's greatest guy. Like, she doesn't know. Like, she would never watch a Rumble video. She doesn't know what's going on. She doesn't understand anything. She just knows what she sees on global news.
Hmm.
It's really sad.
Well, getting
And that's your world.
getting back to
Mhm.
that. So, how did your
Yeah.
career with Global end? What
Oh,
went on there?
well, I mean, I brought up all this, like, day in, day out, I just kept saying stuff, like, because part of my job was, like, I remember I directed the 6 o'clock news on the weekend, and I remember we did some big long stories, several of them actually, telling pregnant women to take it, and I was like, when on earth, anyway, I'll probably get into trouble if I talk about that, but I just didn't think that was a good idea. And when I brought that up, it just caused a lot of problems because I kept bringing it up to producers, the people that make the editorial content. And I just kept getting told to shut up or dismissed. And it just became such a terrible atmosphere. And I found I was sickened by these people, and I was really sickened by how we treated the healthcare workers, because this was the time we are all banging the pots and pans, and then the thing happened, and then now we're demonized the same people. And I'm
Mm.
like, you're so hypocritical. And then the nicest people who were directors and editors and my friends, like, the nicest people turned. And I'm like, how did the nicest people turn, right? And everybody turned. And then my cousin, lots of people in my family became really injured. And and I'm not the type to keep my mouth shut, as you can tell. So I'm the type that I will say, hey, what about this, what about this, how come we're not reporting this, or why didn't you say this, or and every time I did, I'm busting their narrative, and so I became a problem there. Then I went to a couple of rallies, and then I started talking, like, I just went on stage and I said, "I don't know what's going on, and I don't know why this is happening." Because at the time, I didn't know why the media was the way I really didn't know. And, then I got suspended. "Oh, Anita, you spoke at a rally." Yeah, well, I didn't say anything bad. What did I say that was bad? I didn't say anything bad. And then
So, is there
one
something in
time
your contract though? Like, did you sign anything that said you're not allowed to go out and have your own political opinions? And I mean, because you were in the back end, you weren't the talent on the stage. You were
No, yeah.
you were programming.
Yeah, it was just I was part of the crew, and then they said that I had violated the journalistic principles, and I said, "How so?" And so there's a whole video on my Rumble channel of them grilling me, and I took them to task for that because I did not violate these principles. What Show me where I did. God, I was so mad at them when they were coming at me for that. And then so I got a 3-day suspension and then went back to work. And then one day my mask was dangling a little bit because I'm like, I got 3 years in, I still got to wear this ridiculous thing. Right? I really hated it, and because because there are so many rumblings about. Well, at the time people didn't really care for me too much because I people knew how I felt about this, so I
Right. So
wasn't
you,
one of
you
them.
already got blackballed. So like you were,
Black, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
you were
People
already
told me,
the.
asked me. The director of the 6 o'clock news is a really nice guy. He asked me, to not sit at the same desk. Like we shared the same desk. I said, I've been sitting at this desk for 10 years. You want me to move? Like, come on. Like, and he was just like, I don't want your stuff here. Well, who the hell are you to tell me? I said, I'll sit where I want to sit or whatever. And it got really ugly. And then
Wow.
my mask was dangling. And then somebody snitched on me and they just threw me out of the building that day that my mask was dangling because they said, you're not following mask protocol. Well, I was drinking water and I was in a room with one other guy and there was a plexiglass between us. So I can't like, what do you want, you people? You
Wow.
show me some science as to why this works. And they never could. And I was escorted out of the building like a criminal. And just, of course, I went yelling, whatever. But and then I had tweeted something and I think I got fired for the tweet. So basically I just got fired because I had tweeted I said something like, why are the churches and gyms closed and the strip clubs and the casinos are open? Somebody please ask.
Yeah, but it's such a valid question. It's such a valid question of what was going on
I
at the
said,
time.
I said, could somebody please ask the provincial health officer why? And I would direct those dumb press conferences with that woman droning on our bloody provincial health officer. It's just half of what she said was like nonsensical garbage, and she left so much stuff out. And I don't know. I don't know. They just got sick of me and fired me, and I still don't even think it was a legitimate firing. And the other thing is, everybody I worked with is just fine. Yeah, they're just fine to let that happen. Nobody's going to say anything. These people I worked with for 24 years, they're happy to take away my extended medical, all, like everything I had worked for. You're just happy to just toss me out on my ass. I never thought of that, but my friend told me that. He's like, they're not, no one's reaching out to you
Yeah.
to say anything to you. None of these people that they try to be so sanctimonious on television, reading you the newscast, none of them said anything. They're just very happy to keep their paycheck and they'll lie to you as long as you let them, as far
That's
as I can see.
that's the scariest part about all this to me, is that people can. I don't believe most people believe this stuff. Like I think
Yeah.
most people are just like, everyone else believes it. I'm just gonna get on with it. I'll go along to get along. But
Yeah.
I have a feeling that most people are just like, yeah, this is pretty BS, like all of it, and we're
Yeah.
just gonna get through it and whatever. But the fact that they're willing to let other people like go down and
Yeah.
be cool with that, it makes me sad for humanity's sake. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
and I've always
Yeah.
wondered too. Like I always wondered, like, because obviously I wasn't alive at the time. I was born in the '80s, but I always wondered how, people in the Cultural Revolution in China could just let this stuff happen. The people during World War II in Germany just let the stuff happen. People in the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia just let this stuff happen. And these are the things that, like, and yeah, I know it's difficult to compare the two because you're talking about people losing their livelihoods here. You're not talking about people losing their lives, right? Like at the
Mhm.
same extent and frequency. But I think that the scenario, the psyche behind it had the same feel.
Mhm. Yes, it does. It does. It's just on a different level. It's just not as big a consequence. But your livelihood, your job, your comfort, your pension, your paycheck, what you need to make your car payments and pay your rent, people are too scared to put that on the line. So that's our thing. I guess we're not in China, like Maoist China or whatever, but it's with our lives being threatened or being starved or something like that. But we are we created the fear, so it's like, oh, this big mouth Anita, she was saying, oh, this isn't a good idea. Why are we not reporting that? Oh, look what happened to her. She's the lamb on the chopping block or whatever, right? Well, I don't want that to happen to me. I like my global paycheck or whatever, right? So it's that fear. So you've instilled that fear in people. Go along to get along, keep your mouth shut. Sometimes I'd bring up things like, isn't this really weird, this vaccine passport and all that? What does this remind you of? Like it reminded me of papers in South Africa, like for apartheid and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then other people at work would be like, oh no, come on, it's not that. Like they couldn't make the connection. It is like that.
Well, how bad does it have
It
to
is
get
like
though?
that.
Like, how bad does it have to get for these people to stop just going along to get along, right? Like, at what point are they like, holy cow, this is really not good? You know, people are losing their livelihoods. People are, you know, being forced into things that
Oh,
they'd
they don't
rather
care.
not do.
Yeah. They don't care. You did the bad thing. You didn't do the right thing. So too bad. It's like that. You know, all the talk show hosts would be saying that. You know, Jimmy Kimmel said stuff like that. You didn't take this thing and you're having a heart problem. Get in line, Wheezy. I remember him saying something like that. So it's like you were the bad one. You not taking this because you don't want to help anybody. How dare you? That is what we did to people.
I
That
think
is what the
I
news
think
did to
that's the
people.
real pandemic. The real pandemic is otherwise intelligent people losing their mind. Like, and no kidding. I mean, I'm talking about like Jimmy Kimmel. He was a comedian. He was funny. He was racy
Yeah.
even, like in his
Yeah.
comedy.
It was funny.
And what
Yeah.
happened? Like he got some notoriety. He got a little
ABC money.
ABC money.
Right? Yeah, like ABC money happened, yeah. Like, he works for the network, and
Right.
then he's gotta listen to all those top-down people who sit there in board meetings with him, who, you know, and they gotta all the shareholders, and look what happened to Tucker
Yeah, I
Carlson,
was
for
gonna
God's
ask you
sake.
about that. I wanted to ask your opinion about this whole story with Tucker
Oh, okay.
Carlson, because you like,
Can
oh,
can I grab something?
of
It'll take
course,
me 30
no
seconds from my
problem, no
computer, my
problem. I'm gonna
pen.
adjust the
It'll
chat
only
here.
gonna take me 30
Yeah,
seconds.
no problem. All right. Oh, this is great. This is great. I'm really I'm excited to do this live because essentially this
This is
never happens live. I usually do these
great.
pre-recorded when I
Yeah.
have somebody come on and chat. But this is always fun, and I gotta be careful, and I always try to watch my tongue,
I'm trying not to
but
get you in any
making
more trouble.
making sure that she watches her tongue. Super guest, Clyde. Oh, awesome. Thank you so much, Political Foolishness. I really appreciate it. Great interview. Well, it's less of an interview and more of just a chat. I've actually wanted to talk with Anita for a good amount of time. I've known about you for a good chunk of time.
Oh yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. I wanted to talk to you. I've been like, yeah.
It's difficult
I'm
though
so
because
glad.
like I do videos every single day, so it's really hard to adjust my schedule around and get in touch with everybody. And
Yeah. Oh, it's so hard.
it really
It's so
is.
hard.
Really is.
It
But then
really
I
is.
finally get in
Yeah.
touch with people, and then I'm like, okay, well, I want to bring you on. I want to have a chat with you on the show.
But it's so good to seize the moment. We just did this so spur of the moment, but it's so good. Otherwise, we
Literally, for
might not
everybody
have the
watching
chance.
this was like an hour before that we set this up. Literally. So sometimes,
Yeah.
and it was funny because well, you contacted me. Hey, I'd love to pick your brain. I said, well, what do you?
Yes.
I'm going camping this weekend. What are you doing tonight? And
Yeah.
then it just kind of spawned from there. But yeah, let's get
Yeah.
into this. What do you think of what happened with Tucker Carlson? I was talking about him earlier about the things that he had to say. But he was booted from the network abruptly. Number one show in news, absolutely number one cable TV.
Yeah.
What was
3
it?
million views, I think, per newscast.
Yeah,
That's
3 million. Oh, it's a ridiculous amount of views. And they give him the boot completely overnight. He says I'll be back on Monday, and Monday rolls around, and they made the announcement that he won't be doing a show tonight, and then Fox loses about $1 billion in market value that day.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this?
Well, Tucker Carlson would get a lot of criticism. Like, people are very unforgiving. And the liberal people that I used to work with, they make fun of him. They would just make fun of him like he was just like some sort of loser. But if you actually sit there and watch, people in my life make fun of him too.
Most successful loser, though. Like, I mean.
And it's a successful loser, but if you objectively watch his reporting and his newscast, he's the only person on network television actually telling an accurate story with the bravery and honesty. The way he covered the convoy and this one guy, he did so many stories of the freedom convoy. He had like, the rebel news people on. He had people on. He was talking to business owners and stuff like that. There was one guy pulled out of his truck during the convoy and he was beaten up. That guy ended up on Tucker Carlson. Like, he's put a lot of us Canadians on because he recognizes how crazy Canada is. But he's also talking about all the other things too that are going on in life, but he does it in a very polished, very good newscast. Like, it is an excellent program. And maybe years and years ago, he wore a bow tie, okay? And people made fun of him then, but that was years and years ago, where maybe he wasn't as polished as he is now. But he's a very genuine, authentic broadcaster and a very good storyteller. And then I saw him on a podcast with some young guy saying, I really related to this because he's like, I spent 20 years, 22 years of my life, or however long he worked in the 30 years, maybe he worked in the business. And he never really knew that we were probably not being honest about a lot of things. Like, we were, and I could really relate to that. I spent 24 years of my life in that business, and never did I think that we were not trying to tell the truth. I mean, some things seemed funny, but then I never thought that we had anything but genuine intent to tell the truth until I saw us not want to tell the truth. So when he said that he dedicated his life to that business and could see that they're not out to tell you the truth, especially not now, I really related to that. And for a company, it just shows you that money talks. It's shareholders talk. Even at Fox News, they're more concerned with whoever funds them, whatever the shareholders think, or whatever's going on, and they're going to let go their main anchor. Like, I mean, he is Fox News. Everybody else, the Morning Joe, who even knows who anybody else is? I can't even name you anybody. Greg Gutfield or something.
No, Greg Gutfield's actually got really good reviews and really good ratings.
Okay.
He actually does better. He does better than Jimmy Kimmel. He does better than no, seriously, he does for a cable news network and the late night show. Gets the News Tonight or Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon doesn't do as good as Gutfeld. All these guys are doing worse than Gutfeld. People are only tuning into that. So like, it's funny. The only and I put this out there asking people, are you going to watch Fox ever again because of this? And majority of people said no, or said didn't watch it in the first place. But a lot of people who did and said that they would still watch, they all listed Gutfeld as the reason why they'd still stick around, because it's the only thing keeping them there. Apparently his show's really good.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of campy and chatty and fun, and he's got some good guests on and stuff like that. It's very campy. It's not like a news show to me, but like Tucker was actually a news program.
Yeah.
With his opinion, because that's a big part of news nowadays. And then he had that chat show that he did on the weekend where he'd like talk to people in longer format, which I thought was great. Nobody is going. Okay, Greg Gutfield may keep some audience, but he's not going to keep the audience that Tucker kept. No. Right? We are going to follow Tucker, and the offers for him are going to. He's fine. He's already rich. Like he's fine, but because these salaries these guys make, right? Yeah.
Well, they're saying that he can make $100 million anywhere he goes.
Wow. Amazing. Why can't he come here? Come and help us. Right?
Come help Canada. Like, well, I'm sure he's got his loyalties are to the United States of America, but
yeah. But wherever he lands, Rumble or RT, because we hear all these things, or wherever he goes,
I don't think he's going to RT. That would be. They offered him. They offered it to him. I did hear that.
I heard rumblings about that, but that would be weird if he went
really
there.
Weird.
But
yeah.
Wherever he launches or whoever he goes with, I mean, he's friends with Elon Musk. I mean, come on.
And Alex Jones something too.
Oh, and Alex Jones.
Yeah, it turns out that they kept it kind of hush hush for a long time, but it was the Dominion. I think Dominion was suing them in that his text messages all got released in that court document, or in the court documents, and there was very friendly chats, like best buds kind of friendly chats with Alex Jones. And then also awesome. Also what came out was like a bunch of stuff making fun of the upper management, to which some people speculated that that's why he got fired. I don't think that would be any reason to fire their number one talent that brings in most of their ratings. Like,
Yeah, it was how he spoke and he just decided to be honest, and somebody I guess just didn't like it. I mean, there must be more to the story, maybe we don't know, but it just shows you how, oh man, he got canceled. You can be the best thing ever for a network, and if the network doesn't like you for whatever reason, or some shareholder or somebody doesn't like you, you're gone. Well, just try surviving. I mean, yeah, maybe they will, but people are fickle now. They're just going to turn. They've soured people by doing that. Why should we patronize that network anymore if they can do that to people who we think whose reporting we enjoy? You're already making the money. What? I don't know, or maybe that's in question. It's all money.
well, it just shows how valuable telling the truth is. Like at this point,
Yeah.
the amount of money that they'll lose intentionally, $1 billion overnight, to silence somebody telling the truth.
Yeah.
Like, look what they did to Donald Trump. I mean, love him or hate him, he said what
Yeah.
people were thinking, right? Like,
He did.
a lot of what he was saying, what resonated with grievances that people had, that the politicians would touch on but never quite get to. You know what I mean? They'd always try to get you with some divisive issue, and then that's going to be the election issue, and that's going to be your one issue voters and stuff like that. But they never got to anything that people really cared about. And even today, like what are our candidates in Canada talking about? The only one, Pierre Poilievre's got lots of people rallying behind him when he started talking about real issues. Like, people are concerned about the economy now because it's really gonna be bad. It's looking horrible.
Yeah.
Maxime Bernier's got a huge following because he just straight up tells it like it is. I don't know how well he'll do in a general election.
But some people got sour on Pierre Poilievre. They didn't because they feel he's not speaking up enough.
Right. Yeah, your light just went out. It just Did it burn out? Did it just burn out?
Oh, it might have just burned out.
Oh, wow.
This is gosh, now I'm in dark. Oh well, whatever. Maybe that's better if I'm in total darkness.
Yeah,
whatever.
You look more tan.
But yeah, no,
now.
I don't know. It's all and then the whole Tucker gone, and then Don Lemon gone, and nobody really cares that he's gone.
He didn't get the limelight, that one.
Yeah,
he got overshadowed.
And then speaking of networks, like CBC got in a hissy fit because of the Elon Twitter thing, saying that they're government funded. Like
which I looked today and it's gone. That label's gone off of it. Yeah, I'm sad.
Why? I wonder. It's true.
It blew over and nobody was looking anymore, so they're like, okay, we'll make a joke about it, hold hard, and then do it, and then they'll come back.
Well, it created what it needed to create. Like, it cemented something in the mentality of Twitter users, right? So
yeah,
we know the deal. But maybe mainstream media will redeem itself one day. Like, maybe one day things will change. I don't know. There'll be an ebb and a flow.
No, I see the Tucker Carlson situation as like a really good indicator that we're going to do better online. Like,
yeah,
seriously, like inadvertently, I think that the mainstream media gave themselves a serious death blow in removing Tucker Carlson. Because where do you think he's going to end up? You think he's going to be on any of these major mainstream media outlets again? No. He's going to make his own outlet. I mean, like Glenn Beck a bunch of years ago, another guy, love him or hate him. I found him really annoying for a long time, but he made The Blaze, right? He ended up making The Blaze, and The Blaze is,
is that
blazing
big if
trail.
You make The Blaze? It is, isn't it? If you get on Blaze TV, that would be good. That'd be sweet, wouldn't it?
Well, I'm sure Glenn Beck is throwing offers out. He did allude to it, talking about it. But what he did was he was talking about the fact that that it had happened to him. He got thrown off of Fox News, and then what he did he invested what he had, and he built The Blaze, and now The Blaze is a formidable thing. Like, love it or hate it. I mean, there are certain things that you could say about The Blaze. I noticed certain people that have signed with them they all of a sudden seems like they get neutered. You know what I mean? They're a little less controversial all the time, kind of thing.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But I mean, maybe I don't know, that might be me looking into it, or maybe they've just chilled out on their own, or I don't know. Who knows? I mean, only they could tell that tale. But you know, these are new networks that are coming about. The Daily Wired is another one. Ben Shapiro put that one together. Louder with Crowder,
very successful, very smart.
Yeah, very successful, very smart.
Very smart choices and talent.
Yeah, Louder with Crowder was apparently trying to start his own thing. He's got himself into some more controversy this past week, which you know, we'll see how he works through that stuff. Because infighting, I'm not really a big fan of, and I don't really like to cover like just personal drama stuff. So like, I'm just gonna leave that one alone. But hopefully, you know, something good comes out of it, and everybody, you know, sees that.
Maybe he'll go to HBO. I don't know. But
knows?
HBO is very corporate too, right? But at least they have Bill Maher, who's saying some good things. He has some good guests. He has some brain. He's a liberal, but he makes some sense sometimes.
Well,
you know, I like Bill Maher.
Bill Maher's been coming around, you know, as the years have been going.
He's been coming around. You'd have to be brain dead to not come around at this point. You have to be living in a vacuum or something if you don't come around at this point. You know,
well, some people are in that vacuum, but like, you know, Bill Maher is kind of in that vacuum. He is in, you know, liberal Hollywood, but yet he's still coming around, even being there. So, you know, it gives people hope to see that kind of thing. We don't know where it'll go next. we
don't know where it'll go, and it's very hard. Like, one thing I was going to say is like the networks have so much power and so much money and so many resources. You've got a newsroom, you've got like access to feeds. If there's like, how do you think you get the OJ chase? Or like, you know, there are many times at work where there was like a highway chase in the States, and we'd get the feed, you know, because their helicopter at the local affiliate station would be shooting it, and then we could run that type of thing. You could run it on your newscast. You could do breaking news. You had editors, camera people, the teleprompter, everybody was a machine working together, fueled by money to bring you the news. But people who go out on their own, we have nothing. You have to just do it from nothing. You just use the internet, you get some software, you get a couple of cameras, and you do the best you can on your own. And people are doing such fantastic things. But I do get very resentful that my tax dollars go to CBC to lie to me. But I'd rather have my tax dollars go to independence. I really want to see that change. And I would like to see more resources come to the independents, because you're doing it all by yourself. And I think
the resources are coming to us anyway. People are, you know, people leave super chats, and that's how I fund the show. There's ad revenue that I earn from videos that I put out on YouTube, and this is fueling all of that. And immediately, as soon as I say that, I get a new member. Suzanne Eckstein, with a member for 2 months. Thank you so much. Says Clyde, YouTube says is saying the video is not available in your country. I'm from Saskatchewan. No, that's just the thumbnail. I put that there on purpose. That's the deal. Sorry about that. Yeah, it's a bit of clickbait. You do have to do a little bit of that in every video just to entice an audience to come over and view it. But that's it's
the people have been generous for sure.
That's the thing. So but this is what I'm saying. It really is it's proving the point that I was making earlier, how expensive it is to try to squash the truth. Like how much the truth is really worth. If you're willing to get out there and put a little bit of integrity behind what it is that you say. Like, I've had to make retractions on this channel, and it's not always fun, but I get stuff wrong, and then I'll immediately put out a video just telling people I got it wrong. I want you to know that I got it wrong, and I'm coming out there and telling you that I got it wrong. It's an integrity thing, and it makes way more sense.
Well, we used to do that in the news, and good for you that you did that, but that was really part of it. If we ever reported a fact that was then known to be wrong, you have to retract it and make the correction. So that's what the news used to do. They don't right now.
I
can tell you that.
They don't at all. But yeah,
Yeah.
Gerald Nadeau in the chat with a $11 super chat saying this super chat has no purpose but to support you. So this is exactly how it goes. You know, the support comes directly from the audience. It's how it should work. It's how markets should work in general. And of course, more coming in as soon as I say this. They all
Oh, that's
start
awesome.
rolling in. Lance with a 550 super chat. Don might not have had the limelight with everything, but when he got the lemon light, he did get the lemon light. Hopefully he's not bitter. I was thinking Don like Donald Trump, but you know he's talking about Don Lemon,
Yeah.
Mr. Don Lemon.
They should all be fine. I mean, they made tons of like millions. They made the money. They're going to be okay. They should have enough to go start up whatever they're going to start. You know, it's the real working class people that have started independent projects that need the help, right? The people who already make millions of dollars, they're going to be fine because they'll be sued. Like people like will come to them. People with money, the corporations, right?
Well, and then this is how things get sullied and soiled, right? So I always worry about that. I worry about signing a deal and then being beholden to a network that I signed a deal with, stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I was alluding to about like people signing with a thing and then all of a sudden becoming really tame and less controversial. But this is a thing. Space Dave with a super chat asking, can you post Anita's links? She's on point. I'll make sure to post the links. Do you have you gotta make sure you got a link to your Rumble.
Like my Rumble channel is such okay. You can go to anitakrishna.com. But you actually, if you Google me, I don't actually come up. You have to actually go and search. Well, I do kind of come up. You have to go search. You have to go type in anitakrishna.com and then my website should come up. I just kind of had it made. I'm very technically like not good at anything. I'm not good at social media. But I, you know,
so it's in the chat right now, anitakrishna.com. And then I'll make sure I've got your Twitter bio in there. And the anitakrishna.com will take you to the Rumble. Now here's a little secret when you're on YouTube. Don't leave Rumble links in your description or don't give out Rumble links. YouTube hates it. Of course, it makes a lot of sense. It's their direct competitor. You don't want to, so you give them another workaround to in order to get over to your Rumble.
Because so many people are doing that.
Yeah, it's like, not helping them.
People do that, yeah. Well, yeah, YouTube would be like, they don't like that. They don't like it. I don't even understand super chats or anything like that.
Yeah, just if you post a video on YouTube and you want to put a Rumble link, put it in a comment. Like comment it and then pin the comment to the top.
Oh, okay.
People actually
smart.
Yeah, people actually see that first because the comments come up before you can roll down the description.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, see, you know things. Yeah.
I know things.
You know the things.
I've been around for a while on YouTube. It's I've been doing this for a number of years. It's only this year, well, because I used to do automotive content. I did a bunch of other kind of content, and then I got into politics when the Convoy kicked off, and you were talking about people wanting to find what's happening on the street kind of thing, and that's what I did. I would wake up super early and I'd pay attention all day long of what was happening at the Convoy because I knew that our media was lying to us, and I would just publish everything that I could about what was actually happening down on the street. In the end, I end up meeting all these fantastic people, and you know, here I am talking with you, and this is the road that it's led me down.
Yes,
and it's amazing.
It's led me to same way to fantastic people.
Yeah,
I've just met fantastic.
Feel so
people.
blessed to be in this situation. It's so amazing. It's really cool.
I started to do the same thing. I interviewed truckers. I interviewed people driving in trucks on the way to the Convoy. You know, nobody else was doing that. And that whole, remember when the Terry Fox thing happened and the news went ape shit over that, saying that they desecrated it and blah blah blah. And just like how they it was so manipulative. It was just awful. It was it was an exciting time because of the Convoy. It was an awful time because of what was happening. To me, that whole thing felt like war.
Yes.
It felt totally like war, right? And that you're in a war. And I broke away from the the Nazis or whatever, right? Like my friend calls it Goebbels news instead of like whatever
Oh yeah,
global
like
news.
Joseph
Yeah,
Goebbels.
like Joseph Goebbels or whatever. It's quite funny, but yeah. I mean, and a lot of times, like when you end a newscast, if you see something beautiful, like if it was a Remembrance Day ceremony, you'll do this beautiful wide shot to end the newscast and put the copyright on the bottom. And sometimes we always think, oh, what's going to be a good copyright shot? Like we kind of we'd always do that kind of thing. And I remember saying, well, why don't we use the Freedom Convoy? You've got thousands, like a sea of thousands and thousands of people in Ottawa outside Parliament with Canadian flags. Like, why don't we use that? We did, of course. And I said that knowing quite well they wouldn't do that. And then one of the directors said to me, "Oh, there's a Confederate flag in there, Anita."
No, there
Or,
wasn't. No, there wasn't.
well, okay, even if there was, I didn't see it. And even if there was, that's one flag. You're gonna focus on one flag?
Yeah, they
Are you
will.
kidding me?
Yeah, they
Yeah.
will. Yeah, they will.
Oh, they're awful, 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 awful people. I just hope that even the good people went awful. The person that said that to me was really, really nice, right? But yeah,
Yeah. Well, it's amazing too, because even to this day, like if you look for pictures of the convoy, if you're on left-leaning Twitter, you'll see nothing but pictures of that one Confederate flag that was there and that one Nazi flag that was there. Like
yeah,
you'll see nothing but pictures of that. And then you're
yeah,
on, centrist right-leaning Twitter, and you see all these
I know.
beautiful pictures
Beautiful
of people
pictures.
with Canadian flags and having a great time feeding each other. And it's just so
Yeah,
amazing. It's amazing the
yeah, and
difference that you get from the views
oh
that
yeah.
people have.
Yes, and every shot is picked. Like if an editor is cutting a story for your newscast, like every single shot is picked so that you're only going to see like convoy members looking like maybe biker badasses or something, or you're going to see them looking like militias. It's like, well, so what? You mean like, so you're wearing a hoodie and you have a beard? Whoopie ding. Like, what does that make you a bad person? It doesn't matter, but we kind of show you like that. Never would you show the families, the barbecues, the bouncy castles. You would never show black, white, brown people coming together being, no, you never show any of that. We never
Yeah.
showed any of
And it was amazing too, because like I've never seen so many people from different walks of life in Canada get all together in one place. It should have been
that. Yeah.
celebrated by everybody.
Yeah.
It was just
Yeah.
amazing. Lance
And when we even called it so-called, we called it the
oh, I know, the
so-called,
so-called freedom.
and every anchor would say that, like as if we're North Korean television.
Yeah, like
The
we don't call it the
so-called.
the so-called Liberal Party.
Yeah, it's awful.
So-called democracy that we have. Lance in the super chats for 550 says, watching the real-time distortion of reality convoy streams versus the reported facts, you can never unsee that, and it changes everything. It really did. It changed everything.
Mhm.
Now I was kind of I felt like a veteran because I was a Ron Paul fan ages ago,
Mhm.
and I really got into economics and stuff because of him. But I watched him get just completely annihilated by the media complex because they didn't want him to be the nominee for president of the United States in like 2004. And he got lambasted, and he was just a genuine guy, right? And they tried to label him all the typical stuff, racist and all this garbo. And I was kind of prepared for it. I watched it happen again with Trump. Everybody loved him up until the point that he ran for president and started speaking the truth. And like I said, love him or hate him, you can agree with him or disagree with him. He spoke to what people's concerns actually were. And that wasn't the narrative that they wanted to go with, so they had to get rid of him. And this is the process that they go down, and it's disgusting.
It is, but also Trump was very like, I mean, although he's rich and he's like one of the elites, I would guess, I don't know, he's an outsider to the political system. So when he came in, he's all kind of crass. He's very unpresidential, right?
Yeah.
He's just sort of like the things he says, and you kind of made me think he's a little. He doesn't talk the talk of the politician talk. He kind of just says things, in that funny way. And he probably seemed like a bit of a redneck or something, and that's why people didn't like him. And he beat Miss Hillary Clinton, where you think, who's going to be more qualified than Miss Hillary? And then you learn a bit about Miss Hillary, and you're like, damn, now we know why she didn't get picked. I mean,
Yeah.
we don't want her. And Trump did a lot of smart things that people don't know about. I mean, like a lot of smart things. There's one podcast, Lex Friedman interviewed somebody named, I think, Andrew Bustamante, who was a former CIA person, and he can explain this better than me. But the CIA and the FBI, or whatever, no, the FBI, they do reports to the president. The president doesn't have time to hear everything, so you're going to sell the best to the president of what he needs to cover, right? So their jobs are on the line, sort of the CIA guys feeding the president information, and it's all going to be from their bias in a way.
Mhm.
But what Trump did is he hired independents to give him information about things that he wanted to know. So he kind of circumvented the FBI cronies that would normally give him information, and he got his own. And that's a very smart thing to do, because when you're in a system, people are going to feed you information, and you don't know if what you're being fed is true. And that's very smart for him to seek outside information so he can make decisions. And he did a lot of smart things by saying we don't need any more WHO or whatever. Like he kind of got rid of that, or the whatever, the Paris Climate Agreement. I don't know what else he did,
Paris
but he
Climate
did a lot
Accord.
of things.
He got rid of that. And
he's like, we don't need this, we don't need that. And maybe he's right. Like, we don't need the bloody WHO, an unelected bloody thing funded by the you-know-who's running our lives. We didn't elect them. Don't you be running our lives, you and the WEF and all you people. I don't know. I don't know. We didn't elect you people, right? So I don't know. So he was very smart, although he comes across like a big, sort of womanizing oaf. He's too old for that now, but like he's not half as dumb as people think he is.
No,
he's not. And there was no war under him. There was job creation under him. I mean, and maybe he said stupid things like, we're going to build a wall.
The craziest thing for me out of the whole thing, though, is that they claim that all the things that they claimed that would happen under Trump happened when Trump got out of the presidency and Biden came in, like World War III.
Yeah.
Possible nuclear
inflation,
war,
poverty, war,
all of these things. Yeah, they're all happening under Biden, and that was the warning. And by the way, nobody moved to Canada. Nobody moved to Canada when Trump got elected.
No, I know. And look that other woman underneath him, the Kamala Harris. She's awful. I wouldn't let her babysit my cat. Like, I don't find her to be an intelligent woman at all. Like, she's not that smart. She's really not smart. No. And I think she's drunk all the time or something. And these two clowns are running America. Yeah, I wouldn't let them run my household.
Well, it just goes to show you that it's not the presidency that's running America, not when things are running the way they want it to run. Anyway, but hey, we've been going for a good 2 hours and 15 minutes now. So I'm gonna close this out with a couple of super chats. We had Vesper Design jumping in here, buddy over on Twitter. He says poverty is sexist. It's a quote from Justin Trudeau, which is amazing. We got Gerald Nadeau with a 550 super chat saying Trump was nominated for several Nobel Peace Prizes. It was barely covered. I think that says everything. It does say a lot. That's actually true. He's nominated several times because he was the first president to not have a new war since Eisenhower? Like since way back.
Well, that is amazing.
Yeah, he
deserves props for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I did not know that.
Absolutely. Okay. But yeah, we're going to wrap this up. But stay on the line because you and I, we have some things that we're actually still going to discuss because you wanted to talk to me, pick my brain about some things. And
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
And
I won't go anywhere. And thank you so much for having me on. And this is one of my favorite things to do in life is just chit chat about things going on in life. And I was just thank you so much for having me on. It was a great pleasure.
All right, wicked. All right, thank you so much. And we're gonna close this out with you guys. Oh, one last super chat. Lance with the 220. A great stream. Have a good evening, folks. Have a good evening, everybody. I'm going camping this weekend, so I won't be seeing you guys on Monday morning. Expect me on Tuesday morning. for the usual broadcasts, the usual videos in the morning, and we'll continue on from Tuesday. All right. We'll see you in the next one. Keep on.